Welcome to Star Watch Now, your front row seat to all the hottest gossip, drama, and breaking news from the world of entertainment. If it's trending, shocking, or star-studded, we're covering it. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Wang Yibo, mocked as a wooden boy, laughed at by critics, doubted by many. Yet today, he stands as one of Asia's most admired stars. But behind this rise, there is a silent figure who changed everything, and a reason why millions of women across the world can't help but admire him. At the age of 13, when most children are still discovering who they are, Wang Yibo was thrust into a world far harsher than anyone could have imagined. While his classmates were finishing summer homework and playing carefree games, he was boarding a plane that would carry him into the relentless environment of Korean trainee life. From the very first day, the reality was unforgiving. His schedule allowed barely 5 hours of sleep, with every other moment consumed by practice. Dancing until his legs trembled, repeating routines under the watchful eyes of older trainees, he learned quickly that mistakes came with punishment. In those long nights, when the lights dimmed and the mirrors reflected only his thin, exhausted frame, the thought that he might not survive this life pressed heavily on him. There were whispers around him, doubts from those who saw only a fragile boy. Many believed he would give up within weeks, unable to withstand the discipline and the silent coldness that often lingered in the room. The intensity was not just physical, it was emotional. Every stern glance, every reminder that he was the youngest, cut into his confidence. He carried his struggles quietly, tears often slipping during lunch breaks when no one was watching. Yet deep inside, even as he felt fragile, a quiet determination began to grow. It is easy for outsiders to overlook what such an experience means to a child. The endless hours of training were not just about learning to dance or sing, but about survival in a system designed to break the weak. Each day became a battle with himself. Whether to give in to exhaustion or to endure one more round, one more step, one more chance. The boy who seemed too small, too soft, began to discover resilience he never knew existed. Though his body was pushed to its limits, it was his spirit that faced the true test. This backstory is not simply about hardship. It is the foundation of a transformation, the proof that even in the most merciless conditions, a dream can quietly take root and prepare to bloom. By the time Wang Yibo reached 19, the struggles of his early training had not disappeared. They had only shifted into a different form. The dream that had carried him through sleepless nights and punishing routines seemed to collapse before his eyes. His group, UNIQ, which once held the promise of success, was suddenly frozen by political restrictions beyond his control. The future he had poured his youth into was locked away, and with it came a silence that felt heavier than the loudest criticism. On stage, he was mocked as emotionless, his movements labeled stiff, his expression described as lifeless. Audiences dismissed him as a wooden man, and every harsh word echoed in his mind long after the lights had gone out. Standing in front of cameras, he felt small and uncertain. His palms would sweat, his voice trembled, and sometimes the words caught in his throat before they even reached the microphone. The boy who had endured physical exhaustion now faced an invisible wall. Fear of the gaze of others, fear of failing again in public, fear that perhaps all the sacrifices had been for nothing. Nights that once ended with aching muscles now ended with quiet doubts, questions about whether he truly belonged on the stage. The cruel part of this struggle was not the external judgment but the internal battle it created. To be told he lacked presence, when he had given his entire being to the craft, cut deeper than any physical wound. This was not a glamorous struggle. It was a lonely one. Fame was supposed to be a reward, but for Yibo it felt like a magnifying glass held up to his insecurities. Every smile forced, every line forgotten, every stumble replayed endlessly in his mind. At 19, when others were beginning to shape their adult lives with a sense of freedom, he was trapped between the pressure of public expectation and the fear of being forgotten. Yet within this darkness lay the seed of resilience. These struggles, as painful and humiliating as they were, became the crucible in which his character was forged. They stripped away illusions and left behind a raw, unshakable determination. The kind of strength that only comes from knowing what it feels like to fall and choosing, against all odds, to rise again. At the moment when his confidence wavered most, when the stage lights felt less like a spotlight and more like a burden, Wang Yibo encountered a quiet presence who would change everything. It was not a dramatic rescue, not the kind of help that makes headlines, but rather the steady hand of someone who understood the weight of silence. Wang Han, a respected figure in broadcasting, saw what others overlooked. He did not shower Yibo with grand promises or public praise. Instead, he offered something far more valuable: constancy. In a world where applause fades quickly and criticism lingers, this constancy was a lifeline. During rehearsals, when Yibo's voice cracked with nerves and his eyes avoided the crowd, Wang Han would simply lean in and remind him that he was not alone. "Look at me," he would say. "If you lose your place, I'll guide you through." These words were not meant for an audience, not designed to impress, but to anchor a young man who felt adrift. Yibo himself would later admit that, without those quiet interventions, he might have walked away altogether. Wang Han did not shield him from challenges, nor did he exaggerate comfort. Instead, he insisted that mistakes were part of the journey, that falling was natural, and that what mattered was the courage to stand again. This kind of support is rare, especially in the unforgiving world of entertainment, where mentors often look for recognition and protégés are pressured to deliver immediate success. Wang Han sought no credit, and he certainly did not appear in trending topics because of his guidance. His influence existed in the background, shaping Yibo's growth without demanding the spotlight. In the industry, such people are called noble figures, but in truth, they are something even greater: silent protectors who lend strength without asking for repayment. For Yibo, these moments of support were not merely professional guidance. They were the reassurance that his efforts had meaning, that someone believed in his capacity to evolve. Every time he hesitated, Wang Han's presence reminded him that endurance was possible. This bond, invisible to most, became the turning point in Yibo's transformation. In a career defined by performance, it was the unseen encouragement that gave him the courage to face the stage once more, not as the frightened boy he had been, but as the artist he was destined to become. With Wang Han's mentorship, Yibo slowly found his voice. From trembling on stage to hosting confidently, from hiding behind others to stepping into the spotlight. This was the transformation no one expected. And when the Untamed hit global screens, the world finally saw the Yibo who had been waiting all along. But his story didn't stop at acting. Yibo expanded into dance, music, and even professional motorsport. He won trophies on the racing track, conquered variety shows, and captured audiences with his electrifying performances. He wasn't just a celebrity. He became a symbol of perseverance. So why do so many women admire Wang Yibo? It's not only about his striking looks or tall figure. It's his resilience, the boy who cried in practice rooms, who was mocked as talentless, but who refused to quit. It's his humility, shy off stage, yet deeply empathetic and warm. And it's his dedication. Whether it's acting, dancing, or racing, he throws his whole heart into it. That honesty, that authenticity, is what makes him unforgettable. Wang Yibo's journey proves that success isn't built on luck alone. It's built on silent sacrifices, relentless practice, and the rare mentors who lift us when we stumble. His story is more than fame. It's about courage, loyalty, and the power of perseverance. And that's why millions across the world, whether in the US, Korea, Japan, Thailand, Singapore, the Philippines, Australia, France, Canada, Indonesia, or beyond, see him not just as a star, but as an inspiration. Thank you for watching this story of Wang Yibo. If this inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Star Watch now for more stories of Asia's most fascinating stars. Stay tuned. We have more dramas, more untold journeys, and more inspiration coming your way. See you in the next video.